Great. Welcome to What's Up at the Y. It is 10 a.m. We're going to go ahead and get started as 1 hour is not a lot of time, and we have a lot of information to share with you about our employee engagement survey. My name is Eric Farley. I serve as the Chief People Equity and Inclusion Officer, if we had not met before. And we are joined today by Mr. Caleb Salter. I'll let him introduce himself in a couple of minutes. And so we'll go ahead and get kicked off with the sharing of the slide deck. We'll also share some information about next steps at the conclusion of our time together. Caleb?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen. If I could get a couple thumbs up from a few of you that you can share my screen, we'll be ready to jump on in. Perfect. Thank you all. Well, good morning. Eric, I wasn't sure if you had anything else to say before we jump on in. My name is Caleb Salter. I'm a senior workplace advisor here with Gallup, and it's a privilege to get to spend some time with you all here on a nice cold Monday morning right after the holiday. It's like 10 degrees outside my house right now, so it's a little brutally cold right now. I'm based in Omaha, Nebraska, and I've been with Gallup for 5 years, and I get the privilege of leading the Gallup team and also getting to spend a lot of our time here with our clients, helping understand their survey results. And this is one of my favorite times that I get to spend with our clients because, this is really, getting to talk to you all about your results and help you all understand your role. There's a lot that all of you as individual contributors, leaders, team leaders can do to own your engagement and own your role at the Y. And we'll talk more today as we go forward about the connection between engagement to your strategic plan, to the mission that you're working towards. And as we think about our time here today, there's really three key things that I hope you take away from your time here today. A greater understanding of engagement. What is it, and what is the connection that it has on critical business outcomes, your overall organizational strategy? What are some initial insights within your results? What are some things that you all can start to think about that you might prepare for when you have your team action plan conversations, things you might be thinking about? And then what's your role? What can you all do to own your engagement locally on a regular basis? And how can you help work with your team to drive engagement? I want today to be a highly interactive opportunity. So I'll post some questions as we go throughout. But if you've got questions or if you've got things that you want to share, by all means, feel free to use the chat. Eric, if you want to watch the chat for me and then pause me along the way if there's pressing questions that we want to address at a specific point. Otherwise, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A for any last questions before we wrap up our time. But as we think about our agenda here for today, like I said, we'll spend some time talking through what is employee engagement, the connection that that has on your overall organizational strategy, and then critical business outcomes. We'll spend some time with an overview of employee engagement. We'll talk a little bit about the Q12, which I hope all of you participated in, are familiar with. And then we'll talk through your role in engagement and some next steps to have on your radar as you think about what's to come for us. Anybody have any questions on our agenda for our time today? Eric, anything you want to mention before we jump into?
No, just thank you again for those who did participate. I think we learned quite a bit about our employee experience, and we look forward to using that information to inform our next steps around recruitment, retention, and just overall improving the organizational culture.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump forward here. A little bit of kind of an opening activity. I asked you all your favorite holiday, side dishes or foods this time of the year. Would love to hear about your favorite parts about your job. Think about your best day at work. And I'm going to give you a minute to maybe jot down, type on your computer, your thoughts to these three prompts. How would you describe that day? What made it great for you, and how did you feel on that best day at work? So think about your best day at work. Think about those days where you feel like you're doing your best work, and jot some things down. And then I'm going to give you a minute here. We'll come back in a minute, and then I'd love to hear from a couple of you, whether it's through chat or if you want to come off mute and share for the broader group. I'd welcome you to do that too. Anybody want to be our first one to go? Maybe come off mute and share your best day at work and what gets you excited.
I can, I can go.
Yeah.
Um, my best day at work is when I'm with my coworkers. I have a really good case management team over here at Van Buren. We flow like a river. We flow as one. It's very supportive, even from Miss Bobby to Control. Like it's all one unit. I'm excited to come to work even when I go to sleep. I'm excited to get up and come to work the next day. Um, and just being able to change lives every day in these families, these single mothers, these families, these children, just making a difference. My day would really start with prayer, so that I can make sure that I'm where God wants me to be for these families, and that I'm decreasing myself so that I'm able to be used as a vessel for Him. So I usually come in, I see my supervisor, Miss Edith, and see the rest of my team. I start going over my caseload, seeing and making sure that I have notes and everything and preparing for what I have to see. I'm always looking for housing for them on the internet, seeing if I could make any more changes to what they don't have. Trying to reach out with people in the community to see if there is any other resources that is available for them that we've not already explained to them. It just coming to work every day makes it great for me, and I'm just really honored to be in this position to be able to change lives like I do. So that's really what makes my day, is being able to be chosen for this position for such a time as this.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Rebecca, being the first one to go. You mentioned the relationships. It's the people that you get to work with. It's the getting to contribute to the mission and help out people. That's really all that you are all about at the Y. So thanks for sharing. Who else? Are there a couple more of you that want to come off mute and share your best days at work and what makes up those days? I know we've got some comments in the chat here. Anybody
Would
in
you
the
like me to
chat
read a
that,
few?
yeah, you ready to feel?
All right, Mandy says working with clients, engaging with members, having great communication with our staff and team. Tara said delivering to-dos, good productive collaboration. Feel like I contributed and helped someone move things forward. James says best day is when all of the clients are working on their goals that we created when they enrolled. That is awesome feeling. That is an awesome feeling because it shows engagement and they are working to be stable overall. I felt great. Feeling like something got achieved, being able to meet members' needs throughout that day, relationships with our staff team.
I love it. A lot of mentions about uh, the work that you're doing with the people that come to you for your services. So the clients you're working with on a regular basis. How are you helping them? Anybody else want to share their best day at work?
I'll, I can go.
Yeah.
Um, my best day, obviously, I work at Camp Wilson, so my best day is going to be summer. It's going to be warm.
Yep.
It's going to be sunny, and it's going to be packed with kids who are running around and having the best time ever. I love to build the things here that the kids get to use, and I love seeing the kids enjoy that stuff. So for me, it's like literally about having the kids having the best time that they possibly can and growing and learning things. Because like we have kids that are go on the rock wall that I mean, I don't know if I'd go on the rock wall. So
I wouldn't either.
I mean, at our high ropes and stuff like that, and kids like pushing their boundaries, and it's just amazing to see that every day. So yeah, but it also involves the warm weather and sunny, of
Yep.
course.
I'm right there with you. I'd rather have the nice warm weather. Thanks for sharing, Stephen. Okay. Well, as we think about, I shared, my best day at work is really doing things like this, getting to connect with all of our clients. So it really is a privilege to get to hear from you all and get to connect with your mission and the work that you all are doing on a daily basis. But as you think about some of those things that you mentioned, the enthusiasm really fuels your growth. The things that you're getting to do on a regular basis are helping you grow or helping stretch you on a regular basis, which helps you better give back to those that you're supporting. And as we think about when we're engaged in our work, we are more involved in and passionate and creative on a regular basis. We show up and put our best foot forward. on a regular basis. And so as we think about transitioning here, a little bit of a difference between engagement and satisfaction. As we think about this world of engagement, so Gallup as an organization about 30 years ago, we wanted to set out to essentially kind of pioneer and understand um, what are some of the most practical, realistic needs of employees? What are the things that are on the top of your mind on a regular basis? The whole world of employee surveying back then was satisfaction based. It was, do you like your commute? Do you like the coffee in your break room? Do you like the computer that you get to work on a regular basis? And we knew that there was more to it. We knew that there were some psychological attributes that help someone feel like they were doing their best work on a regular basis. And so that work led us into this world of engagement. And as we think about engagement, we know that those are individuals that are engaged typically work with passion. You heard that from Rebecca, Stephen, from those in the chat. You're passionate about the work that you do on a regular basis. You perform at consistently high levels. Every day you are showing up and you're raising the bar. There's no Sunday scaries when you're getting ready to you think about, oh, I've got to get up for work the next morning. You're showing up and you're putting your best foot forward on a Monday morning and raising the bar on a regular basis. And you drive innovation and you move the organization forward. You help make the why better every day by the work that you're doing. As we think about the satisfaction world, you may or may not be productive. You might be doing what's expected, but you may not go above the call to action when you're just satisfied with your work. You might put your time, but not necessarily your energy into your work. You might show up and you might punch your time card, show up, do your work, but maybe you're not going to go above and beyond and perform at consistently high levels on a regular basis if you're just satisfied with your job. And maybe you take a wait and see attitude. Maybe you're kind of wanting to see where the wind blows on different things before you make a decision on what you're going to go do. You're not, spearheading that change and helping move the organization forward. So we know that when people are engaged at work, they really have much more of a psychological connection and they drive performance within the organization. And it's much more actionable by local leaders to focus in on someone's engagement. And we'll take a look at those action items here in a little bit. But as we think about understanding engagement, a couple of things that I wanted to call out here. Engagement isn't just a buzzword. I think oftentimes a lot of people, they're like, well, engagement's just a flavor of the day, fun topic that we talk about, and maybe never come back to it again. We know that engagement fuels business results. Engagement creates connection to organizational culture and strategy, and engagement increases employee well-being. We know that when team members are engaged at work, they are much higher, they report higher likelihood of higher levels of well-being. So we know that there's a connection between engagement and critical business outcomes. And before I turn it over to Eric to kind of talk through the connection between engagement and your overall organizational strategy, I just wanted to throw up this slide here around the connection between engagement and some critical business outcomes of things like absenteeism. We know that when someone's engaged at work and they're on an engaged team, they don't call in sick on a regular basis. They show up to work. They are less likely to be absent. They report safety risks. If there's something that they see coming, they're going to call it out. And they're not going to have those safety risks on a regular basis. They're not going to turn over as quickly when they're engaged. And they're more likely to have, when you think about that client loyalty, client engagement, they come back to the why. They come back to you for your services because you engage them. Because you're engaged at your work, you naturally engage them. You are doing, and you're more productive when you're engaged at work. And Eric, I'd invite you to kind of share a little bit about the connection between the engagement work that we've done and the overarching organizational strategy.
Yeah, this work of leaning in and understanding more deeply the employee experience is truly mission fit. Our strategic plan, specifically outlined in our people section, challenges us to think critically and creatively about how do we recruit, retain, and develop committed team members and volunteers, and thinking about the systems that support them, right? A critical component of that effort is fostering meaningful engagement with our employees by having opportunities for you all to discuss your work-related experiences and actively seek ways to enhance our organizational culture, make certain that we're taking the temperature, we're checking the health of our culture. In alignment with this goal, our partnership with Gallup really reflects our commitment to a research-based, efficient. As you all may recall, there were a few questions posed. You could take the entire survey within 15 minutes. And it was confidential. So a confidential approach has been really important in this process to understanding employee engagement. Gallup has also taken the responsibility for collecting, reporting, and analyzing the survey data to ensure that individual responses remain anonymous. At no point in this process will a YCO leader or supervisor have access to the origins of the specific feedback. And so all survey results are aggregated and reported at the team level, and we are maintaining the strictest confidentiality. Okay. And so as we think about moving forward and how we're going to use this information, we're going to be equipping our business line leaders with tools and training that's going to be required to help interpret and utilize the data. This will include understanding the key insights at both the association wide level, but also within our specific business lines. Following that training, I'm going to partner with each of those business line leaders to create a targeted action plan aimed at addressing what we'll identify as the most significant opportunities for improvement from what we heard from you all. Okay. So this is a 3-year commitment with Gallup that we've made to allow us to really track the changes in our organizational culture over time and then also conduct deeper dives into areas of interest. And so we have some opportunity to do some pulse surveys as well on different topics. This sustained approach ensures that we remain adaptive and proactive and really thinking about how we can be inclusive at work. So as we move forward with sharing this data, feel free to take notes, pose questions to Caleb or I, and then I'll be available for questions afterwards as well. So Caleb, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love where you mentioned that the adaptive and proactive, making sure that we gather the feedback and we can adapt in real time and be proactive on the feedback that they're getting from you all on a regular basis. So that Eric, and I think it's great to think about when you have such a great strategy and mission put together and what you're working towards. Engagement is really a mechanism we can use as a lever to move the needle on that, to help us understand that we're doing the right things and we have the right plans in place. One last kind of quote I want to share here, maybe not necessarily a quote, but more of a thought here is: when we are engaged, we are involved and enthusiastic and committed at our work. We know that engaged employees and teams have more energy to take on challenges, increase their productivity, and positively affect those around them. And you think about that challenge piece and that positively affect those around them. You see that come out in the things that were shared by Rebecca and Stephen aloud, but then also it's being called out here in the chat. So as we start to kind of unpack engagement a little bit further, I want to spend some time here on this specific slide. As we think about engagement, we know that there's basic fundamental needs of each employee that you all have that we need to focus in on. And we break those focus areas into 12 workplace needs broken into 4 quadrants. Some of you might know where I'm going here with this piece. But as you think about these 4 quadrants, the first is your basic needs, those fundamental, foundational expectation needs that I have on a regular basis. It really is the focus me and help free me from unnecessary stress, help me know what I'm doing, and help me have the tools to be able to go and do my work well on a regular basis. That next quadrant is really all about those individual needs. It really is focusing in on knowing me, know me for who I am and the things that I contribute to our organization. Help me see my value. What do I contribute in the work, the mission that I help drive in the organization? Care about me, show up and care about me, know me as a person, and help me grow on a regular basis. Help me develop within my career so I see the Y as somewhere that I can spend the rest of my career and I have opportunities to grow and develop on a regular basis. That next quadrant is really the teamwork. It's hear me, help me see my importance and the role that I play on this team. Help me feel proud for my accomplishments and help me build mutual trust. Help me build those relationships that help me show up to work every day, maybe on a Monday morning after a holiday when you're like, I wish I could just click snooze on my alarm and go back to bed, like I got to sleep in the last couple of days. But so those relationships that you have, that you show up to work, building that mutual trust and respect there. And then this last quadrant is really thinking about growth, challenging me, help me review my contributions, help me grow on a regular basis, and help challenge me to take that next step in my career and the work that I'm doing here for the Y. As we think about how we measure engagement, this is kind of a little bit of a sneak peek as we think about measuring engagement here. You all hopefully participate in the survey, so these questions shouldn't be too big of a surprise for you all. But this is the Gallup Q12. This is how we measure and quantify employee engagement across organizations. And you see here on the left side of the slide, those four quadrants, that basic, individual, teamwork, and those growth needs. And you see on the right side of the slide here, those employee needs spelled out. And when we think about those employee needs, that's what helped us write these specific questions and helped us think through what are the most important engagement elements that we could ask employees to understand their experience, understand what they have, what they don't have, what they need from us as leaders and as team managers. Thinking about something like I know what's expected of me at work, those basic expectations of what am I doing on a regular basis? And then what's that connection to our mission? What's the why behind the work? What is the why behind the why? What are we doing to help promote and move the mission forward on a regular basis? Encouraging my development, recognition on a regular basis, having a best friend at work. This is one question that people always have questions around. I have a best friend at work. My best friend might not be at work. It might be my spouse or my partner or someone from high school or college or a sibling. But you probably have people that you have mutual trust, people that you respect on a regular basis. So I want to pause here and pose to you two things. One, what questions do any of you have around the Gallup Q12 questions? And then the second thing is, what's most important to you? As you look at these 12 elements, what question up here is most important for you all when you show up to work on a regular basis? I'll give you maybe a minute or two here to think about that, and then I'd welcome you to come off mute, use the chat, whatever you feel comfortable doing to share your thoughts. Anybody want to be our first to share kind of what's most important to them? I see Savannah in the chat said my supervisor, someone at work that cares about me as a person. Anybody agree with that? Anybody have something different that is most important to them?
There's some agreement there. I'm seeing some thumbs up and some hearts on that comment.
Yeah, Ryan, you said learn and grow in the last year, having those opportunities to progress and advance.
Right.
Anybody want to come off mute and share what's important to them and why?
Caleb, this is Dolly.
Yeah.
I liked where it says my associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work.
Yeah.
I think that's where I love teamwork, and when we win, we all win, and when we are challenged, we're all challenged.
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
important to me.
Absolutely. You think about the work that a lot of you do, it's really collaborative with other people. And so if team members of your peers aren't doing quality work, it's hard for you to feel connected into the work that you're doing. Thanks for sharing, Dolly. Maybe one other thought.
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
And Dolly inspired me to talk. So I
Thank
think
you, Dolly.
I've met so many people at so many different branches in just the short time that I've been here. And I feel like every building I walk into, people are glad to see that I'm there. They welcome opinion, and we don't even have to go with my opinion, but I'm being heard,
Yeah.
which I love. So being able to provide input, have a voice in it, and then we decide which way to go, whether it's me or someone else's opinion, and then I can carry that flag. So it's been very rewarding so far, and everyone I've met is very attached to doing the best job they can, and I love working around those kind of people. So Thank you,
Yeah.
Ed.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Alan. You think about that Q7 at work, my opinion seems to count. You kind of hit the nail on the head there. Oftentimes I think some people see this and they're like, I share my opinion, but nothing happens with it. Well, your opinion was heard. Opinion was someone heard it, it was considered, but maybe we go in a different direction and we share why we're going in that direction and getting on board with where we're going. And so I like what you just mentioned right there. And I see Katrina said someone at work encouraged my development. So thinking about that ongoing development from your leader, from a peer, a team member. For me, my most important engagement element really is truthfully best friend at work. And it really is all about like the people that I get to work with on a regular basis. And we call them our Q10s here at Gallup, those best friends at work, or your BFAWs, BFAW, best friend at work. And it really is all about the people that I show up to work and get to work with every single day. And whether that's at Gallup or even with our client partners, I've got some best friends at work across some clients that I get to work with and get to see on a regular basis. So I appreciate you all indulging me and sharing the ones that are most important to you. But as we think about this best friend at work question, I wanted to spend just a little bit some time and double click into this a little bit. This is usually the question that most of the time when I have these kinds of conversations, people ask about best friend at work. They usually say, why that question? Why is it best friend at work? My best friend's my partner or someone from high school or college. When we think about this best friend at work question, it really came down to this sorting that it did between high and low performing teams. When we asked a question, I have a good friend at work, we saw those high and low performing teams kind of mixed together. There wasn't a clear distribution between those two teams, those two different types of teams. And when we asked something like, I have a best friend at work, there was a clear distribution between those groups. And so we know that this question, I have a best friend at work, while it tends to be, questioned and people want to talk more about it and understand it, it is highly indicative of a high performing team. And so as we think about why it's in there, it really is that impact that it has on team performance. And we'll talk about best friend at work and some other questions and how it looks for you all as an organization. But I wanted to pause here before we take a look at the overarching organizational results and see if there were any questions at this juncture in time. Okay. Well, let's jump in and we'll take a look at the current state of engagement across the YMCA of Central Ohio. So Eric and I worked together and we picked out a couple slides that we wanted to share from the overarching broader report out that we did with your leaders a couple of weeks ago. And you'll get more information. So this is really just kind of a first peek at the results so you can kind of get an understanding of where we are. But you'll have some time to spend with your teams, going through your team results, where you'll get to see this data again and get to talk more about your team's results. So this is the overarching organizational results from a couple different views. The first is participation. So we had 30% participation across the entire association. Your two departments that held over 50% were the association services and community strengthening. So shout out to those groups for participating. Over half of you participated from your groups. One thing that I'm really curious about is we think about being, the best partner that we can be going forward. What are some things that encourage you to participate? Was there a specific message or, outreach that you got from, Eric and team or from your managers or from Gallup that, encouraged you to show up to complete your survey? I'm just curious if anybody wants to share what helped you show up to participate in the survey. Not everybody all at once.
It's Dolly again. I would just say, with Eric's leadership, the past, years, I don't even know, I can't even remember, Eric, 4 years?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
3 years. I feel like he's really encouraged us to use our voices, and he always has an open door policy. So if anyone is, needing to have a conversation with him, and by knowing his efforts and knowing his charge, I think it helped our staff participate. And this isn't our first staff survey.
Yep.
And I feel that things have changed. Our culture has shifted. because we are opening this opportunity up for staff to have a voice. So
I love what you just mentioned there, Dolly, about you're seeing progress. You're seeing that when you give feedback and we have these opportunities, something's changing and we're moving in the right direction. Like that ultimately is the end game goal of anything that we do with a survey. Data collection is great. It's great to see results and see numbers, but really where the power is making progress on those results and doing something with it. So I love to hear that you've seen progress on other channels and that encourage you to participate. Anybody else, anything that sparked them to, give them the call to action to participate in the survey?
This is Connor here. I'll echo similarly to what Dolly said as well, and that I'm relatively new, and some relatively new coworkers and I all kind of have the question of should we do this survey? Hey, have we been here long enough to do it? We were all encouraged. Oh yeah, 100%, because whether you've been here 5 years, 10 years,
Yep.
it's valuable data. It's valuable for the conversation. And I think even the transparency of knowing that like this was going to happen would even encourage me even more when the survey comes out, that, oh wow, we're going to have like in-depth conversation to really analyze how can we move forward following the results. I think transparency is huge in understanding that like this is, of course, it's confidential, but every question you submit is going to make a difference in how we move forward as an organization. That's impactful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter your tenure, your voice is important, to be able to share and make sure you're heard, because it is also your employee experience. It's not just those that have been here the longest and have seen things. You've got fresh perspective. You got new ideas on how things can be done. So thanks for sharing, Connor. And I see Joy dittoed what Dolly said. So I love that we're kind of all in agreement that, you want to participate when progress is happening. You want to get on the ship and say, hey, I want to help contribute to this thing. I want to help contribute to help and move this forward and help us make progress on these results. So thank you all for sharing. As we think about another additional insight here, this is what we call our engagement index. And I'm going to help make sense of what you're seeing here. So we bucket and we help our clients essentially understand the makeup of their employees by 3 different categories. And we call that engaged, not engaged, and actively disengaged. And so it's a proprietary algorithm that our team uses to essentially, based on employee response rates and their responses to questions, where do they fall within these 3 categories? And so you all as an organization, so 44% of your employees fall into this engaged bucket. Those are those employees who they show up every day and they are productive. They're putting their best foot forward. They are highly innovative. You think about those 3 things that were on that engaged versus satisfied slide. They are moving the organization forward on a regular basis. Your 44% is pretty on par with what we see across first 10 clients. So you're kind of right there when it comes to the average across our clients. When we pull this across US workplaces as a whole, not just necessarily Gallup clients, but we pull it, we see that about 33% of the US workplace is engaged. So you all are definitely above the typical US organization based on our latest polling. 46% of your employees fall into this bucket of it's, just a job for me. I'm not engaged at work. I'm kind of indifferent. And that's really your biggest area of opportunity as an organization are these not engaged employees, because these are employees that they can be convinced to be engaged. Something that, based on the feedback that they give as part of the survey, there might be some progress made on something that's been kind of the hurdle for them. They might start to see progress on something that's kept them up at night and has said, like, I don't know if this is where I want to be long term, but maybe some progress is made on an initiative. And they're like, hey, like I feel really good about where I'm at. I feel more productive on a regular basis. I get to do my best work every day. And then 10% of your workplace falls into this actively disengaged bucket. And I kind of think about these people as maybe their foot's halfway out the door. They might be looking for other opportunities. They might be, thinking about like, what's next for me? So this is kind of the makeup of your organization as you think about bucketing your responses within these 3 categories here. And so as we jump forward here, we're going to spend some time on this next slide. I think there's a question in the chat, Dan, around full-time versus part-time. So this is all employees that participated. So we didn't segment out any of these results based on full-time, part-time, et cetera. So everybody is included that participated in the survey. Good question. So as we think about here, this is where we're going to kind of break out the the Q12 item results at an overall organizational level. So I'm going to walk you through this slide so you kind of know what you're looking at here. There's a lot to look at. So you see those 4 quadrants, those basic individual teamwork and growth needs. We've got those Q12 questions here. I'll help you remember what the full wording is as we go through a couple of them. And then we've got the distribution of responses. So how did your teams respond based on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that Likert scale? Where did they fall there? And then what's the percentile rank compared to other nonprofits that have over 1,000 employees? So stacking you up against similar organizations that so we can see how you fare against those groups. And then you mean for your organization. What does that questions mean score on a 1 to 5 scale? We wanted to kind of pick on a couple of questions that we thought today. The first is the question 1, I know what's expected of me at work. This is really that foundation of the engagement hierarchy. It really is the I know what I'm doing on a regular basis. So you can see here that 58% of your workplace can strongly agree. They can say, heck yes, every day I know what's expected of me. And 32% fall into this yes, but. Yes, but maybe there's some things that are maybe a little bit, a little hairy in what I'm doing, but for the most part, I know what I'm doing. And so as you take a look at that, it's a Monday, 90%. I was going to struggle with math there. 90% of your workplace gives that either a 4 or a 5. So there's a pretty unison agreement across your workplace that people know what they should be doing on a regular basis. And that falls at the 71st percentile across other nonprofit organizations. The next one we wanted to talk about is question number 3. At work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. This is really that, do I get to live out my strengths question? Do I get to do the things that I naturally do really well on a regular basis? And so we see 47% gave that a 5, 33% gave that a 4, and we have about 20% that gives that something less than a 4. And that puts it at the 70th percentile. So most of your employees feel like I get to show up and do my best work every day. You heard what Rebecca said, calling out the things that, for you are the things that keep you coming to work, the things that you get to do that help fill your bucket and help you do your best work on a regular basis. The next question here is mission. And I kind of think about mission and expectations really go hand in hand, as the expectations is the what and the missions, the why. The why am I doing this work? And so mission is really that connection to the overarching organizational mission. We see 52% of your workplace gives that a 5. So over half of your workplace can strongly agree. I understand our mission and I understand the connection that I have on that overall mission. And 30% give that a 4. So we see, 82% of your workplace is given this a 4 or a 5. There's a pretty consistent unison and an understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it at the why. And the last one here that we wanted to poke on before I open it all to you all for questions is learn and grow. So learn and grow. Last 6 months, we've had opportunities to learn and grow. 40% give it a 5, and then 32% give that question a 4. So it's not quite as strong as some of the other questions we were just looking at, but relative to other nonprofits, we're right there at the median, at the 49th percentile. Right there, kind of smack dab in the middle with all the other nonprofits in our database. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to let you all take a look at this slide. But I would be curious to hear from some of you if there's something that surprises you all. Maybe if you're,
Caleb, we may have lost you for like 2 seconds at the end. If you could repeat your prompt to them.
yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, so we'll pause here, and I would love to hear from some of you, what questions stuck out to you? Does this feel right to you all? And then maybe what questions do you have around the results that we're looking at? Anybody surprised? Maybe you want to use the hand raise. Anything that surprises you on here?
Caleb, what's the opinion?
Yeah.
The opinions one again?
Yep. So this is at work. My opinions seem to count.
Hey, Caleb.
Yeah.
I think one that surprised me maybe a little bit, this is Manu, is recognition. So I think, in the past year to two, we have, I think, tried to, as an association and within different departments, try to make a bigger effort in recognizing
Yeah.
staff, but I guess maybe that's seen differently or something. So I think that area and being able to learn a little bit more about that and to see, you know, what the interpretation of that is and knowing moving forward because we do
Yeah.
want to be able to recognize staff.
Absolutely. You think this recognition question. So there's a scattered distribution of responses here. We don't, as an organization, we don't kind of skew to one side of the scale more than the other. Recognition's a tough one, to get right. What our research would tell us is that recognition is inherently individual. People like to recognize in different ways. And so this really comes down to the biggest impact is really the manager understanding how does that team member want to be recognized. Some people might want a trophy or a plaque. Some people might want new challenges or opportunities to stretch themselves and grow. Someone might say, I want my annual bonus, or different types of recognition forms. So it definitely is one that's inherently individual, and sometimes hard to get right. But if managers can have the conversation and just ask, how do you like to recognize? How can I recognize you? We also know that peer-to-peer recognition is critical. When people can give recognition to the team members that they're working with, you're not only going to grow that recognition question, because recognition doesn't just have to come from your manager; it can come from your peers. It also drives that Q10 best friend at work question. So when people are given that peer-to-peer recognition, they start to build those relationships. They start to build that mutual trust and respect by way of giving that peer-to-peer recognition. So thanks for calling that question out, Mandy.
Hi, this is Ryan. I'm definitely surprised by the best friend question, our
Yeah.
results there.
Yeah.
I view us as a very collaborative and trusting team. So I would have expected that we were higher than the eighth percentile
Yeah.
among nonprofits in that area.
Yeah.
So it's surprising to me to see that that it's not seen that way across the board. And I would just love to know what is to be done about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So best friend is one that, typically for first time clients is usually one that tends to rank a little lower. A couple reasons for that. It could be simply just I don't get the wording of the question. My best friend is not at work. That's typically the most common, hurdle. And so what a lot of our clients will do is after that first survey, they'll start to socialize the question a little bit more and start to kind of humanize the best friend piece and help people realize, oh, you do have people at work that you trust. You do have people at work that have that relationship with, that, you get coffee with, or you have that best friend relationship with. So it really does come down to communication and helping people make that connection of, I do have best friends at work, and here's who they are. I'm not too surprised at where it fell for a first-time client using the Q12, but it definitely is one that, as you just said, Ryan, you feel like there's a lot of close-knit relationships. We all work really collaboratively together, and so I think it's just helped make that connection that, those are the people that, you can consider a best friend at work. They're people that we have those strong relationships with. Okay, I know we've got 14 minutes, so I want to get through the next couple slides here. I'm going to jump forward here. So when we think about engagement across tenure populations, this is our last set of data before we round out with everyone's role in creating engagement. When we take a look at our tenure data, we see that those of you that have been here the longest at the Y, so 10 plus years, fall in the most engaged population. And this is pretty, similar to what we typically see across a lot of our clients in the sense that we typically kind of see like a U-shaped curve across 10-year populations, we see that those less than 1 year are usually the most engaged. So we kind of defy that trend a little bit. But we see a fall off across almost all of our clients from that less than 1 to less than 3 years of tenure. And what we see then is we see a rebound a little bit later on in their career when we get to that 10 plus year. So we're kind of following the typical trend across a lot of our clients. I wasn't too surprised when I looked at these results. But what this does say is this tells us that we've got a lot of senior tenured employees who we can lean on when it comes to understanding what it looks like to be engaged at the Y. And so my call to action to all of you that are 10 plus years is, be the leader, be the mentor on your team to say like, let me help you understand why I'm engaged and the things that are important to me and let me help my team make progress on these results and help grow the engagement of our teams. So as you think about kind of rounding out our conversation here today, like I said, kind of the end piece, the third piece that I wanted you all to know more about is what can you do? What's your role in engagement? And so this slide here, there's a lot on here. Oftentimes when we think about employee engagement, I think we as humans, we tend to think, oh, engagement is something that's an HR effort. It's something that comes from the leadership team. Engagement really is leader enabled. The leadership team, making the 3-year commitment to we're going to do an engagement survey, we're going to make progress on these results for the next several years, connecting that to the overall strategy and culture. But it really falls most heavily on the local team leader. So having those action plan conversations and making progress on those results. But even just as important is the work that you all as teams and individuals can make around your results. And so as you think about, when you leave today and you start to talk about your results with your teams, be thinking about how can you create a culture, of engagement across your team. What are some of the things that we can do to drive our action plans forward across our team? And then you as individuals be thinking about what are some things that you can do to own your engagement? How can you show up the next day and say, I'm going to do these couple of things that are going to help me be more engaged on a regular basis? And how can I support the broader efforts of my team? Can I raise my hand and say, hey, I'm going to take that action item and I'm going to support our team I'm going to take that on and I'm going to work on that as a team. And I'm going to report back to you at our next team meeting on where we are on that specific effort. 3 things as you think about taking ownership and kind of some characteristics of ownership of engagement is determination. So having those high levels of energy, tenacity, and resilience, dedication. So being strongly involved in one's work and having an all-in commitment that yields a sense of significance, enthusiasm, inspiration, pride, and challenge. And then flow, that concentrated and happily engrossed in one's work. You are in the work and you are, flowing downstream and working towards those various milestones that you're working to accomplish. But as you think about some questions and some things that you might use as some prompts to start to get your thoughts going around what can I do? What are the ingredients for a best day at work for you? Think back to that prompt at the very beginning where I asked, like, what does a best day look like for you? What are those things and how can you take ownership to do more of those things and have more of those experiences on a regular basis? What have been your main successes over the past 6 months? How can we replicate those successes and learn from them? And how do you best contribute to the success of your team and organization? So what's your role in the broader picture? And then look through that through the lens of the Q12 questions. Focus in on the elements you're going to focus in on. What is one action you can take to contribute to your engagement? And then what is something that your manager or a colleague can partner with you on to take action on your engagement results? So be thinking of some of these questions as you start to leave today and you're thinking about, what my engagement, what do I do to, help take ownership of the things that I can own when it comes to some of those basic fundamental needs that we know that employees need to be successful at work. So as we round out here, kind of with some commitments, next steps here, this is a little bit of kind of of where we're going from here. So gold star to all of you that participated in the survey. That's kind of the first step is sharing your voice, completing the survey. The next steps will be really discussing those results with your team, building out an action plan and working to make progress on that action plan. And then over the next 6 to 12 months, as you're working on that, be thinking about how can I take ownership of my engagement and how can I take that ownership of my team's engagement? What are some things that I can do to support my team and to support my own individual engagement. Before I pass it back to Eric, I just wanted to leave you all kind of just with one thing that I hope kind of anchors us all. Our goal is to measure our team's level of engagement and work together to make the necessary changes to create great working environments and thriving teams. It's really why we're here today, is to create a great workplace where you all can show up, you get to be your best authentic self and do your best work on a regular basis, and you get to be a part of a thriving team that impacts your community and drives your mission forward. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Eric to round us out, maybe talk about what to expect from a next step standpoint. I think there might be some questions in the chat around getting access to results in the future, and we can definitely talk about that too.
Yeah, and you see on the screen now a layout of some of the activity that's been occurring with regards to a presentation to the executive team, and now we're having this discussion. And so we're now moving into training for those business line leaders, as I mentioned before, so we can really make certain that we understand the data that's been received and interpret that, and then how to utilize that effectively. And so, Allison, you will be having access to that data and having conversations with folks in youth development, for example, about what this means for you all and the work you all are responsible for. You'll also have the opportunity to cross-tabulate that data to look at identity markers to understand what unique experiences may happen from group to group. Okay. And so again, we will be coming back to you all with another survey in about a year to really get a sense of what those changes have looked like for you all to measure any changes in our culture as an organization as well. And so Caleb and I could stay on for a few minutes if folks have questions, but we thank you for being part of the conversation today and for participating on a Monday morning with limited coffee in your system. Love it.
Yes, yes. Thank you all so much for your participation. I see Steven's got a coffee cup there. I need some more after this. Might be on my third cup here in a little bit.
Caleb, can you put the slide up that goes over our commitment
Yeah,
and those steps? I'm a note taker, so I like to
absolutely.
write things out. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Dolly, this was recorded as well, and so that's going to be shared out with the announcement.
I love that you're taking notes.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be on here. I just got an email that says I have to join a meeting. So I don't know if I have to be on here or not.
Hi there, we're wrapping up. There's going to be a recording of the presentation today sent out to all staff, and so look for that, okay? No worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions that anybody's got for us? You're gonna throw me a curveball on a Monday morning and
I'm
see
just
my
curious, Caleb, can you go back to the Q12? There was one
yeah,
question I wanted to ask a question about, and it
yeah.
was in one
You
of
want to go
the
to your results or to the overall Q12?
our results. And it was the one around progress. I can't remember the actual language of the prompt, but it's
Yeah.
in the growth area. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So I'm blanking on the full wording as well for Monday. So progress question is, in the last 6 months, someone is talking about my progress. So
Mhm.
really thinking about, my manager, my team leader sits down and has a conversation with me about, the last 6 months of my progress. The typically when we think about like performance reviews, that's where you kind of where this slots in here. The approach that we recommend is 6-month conversations for teams. There shouldn't be a surprise for someone when it comes to their performance. And so it really is thinking about having those progress conversations that are frequent where someone knows what's going on and how am I progressing towards my goals. So it's not a surprise at the end of the year.
Yep. And it highlights the importance of one-on-ones and
Yes.
how magical they can be, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. One-on-one conversations is like uh, the express way to increased engagement. I always use the analogy if any of you go to Denver, I am always just perplexed by the expressway lane when you're on the interstate. There's like the one lane that I don't know how you get onto it, but you can bypass everybody else. One-on-ones is really the way to bypass everybody else and make meaningful progress on engagement.
Mhm. And I know
What
folks are
else?
transitioning, but if you have another question for Caleb, we have his attention.
Let's see. Yeah, so the question from Bear in the chat around follow-up questions. So absolutely, if you've got follow-up questions from today, I would say just for an easy management of them, maybe Eric, if you want to have
Yep.
questions directed to you, and then anything that Eric you can't answer, by all means, I'm more than happy to help
Yes,
and
sir.
or help team member.
All right, thank you. I did want to check in with our folks in Marcom. Are there any announcements or plans for another What's Up at the Y coming up soon?
We'll have another What's Up at the Y in January, at the end of January, to go over the Q4 results from this year. And then also we have a huge membership campaign kicking off December 5th. Just want to make a plug for that, as we want to make sure that we keep that membership revenue a healthy stream. And so if we can all just amplify any post about our campaign and opportunity to access our Ys that you'll see on our social media channels, please do so. There's also end of year giving campaigns still happening. So please make sure you're touching base with your networks. It's a great time to either make a donation to create access for someone else to be part of our Ys, or for someone to join in on that membership campaign. That's another barrier down for someone to access our Ys. So thank you.
Okay. Have a great Monday. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.